Hello everybody, today I'd like to talk you through how I created this illustration using Affinity Designer. So to start, I'm just creating shapes with a 1-point stroke and no fill, as I just need to get some shapes down, keep things simple at this point if I can, and as you can see the cog tool is somewhat indispensable when creating shapes like this, and it's always handy that it's there when you need it. I don't need the path in the middle as I intend to create one shape using a Boolean subtraction command, so I simply select the outer object, then select the inner object, and then use the subtract command to create one piece of geometry. Now, using the shape as a snap candidate, I create another circle, and after selecting everything, I duplicate it to the other side, and then group them together so I can align them both to the centre. So as I create the rectangle that makes up the main body of the cassette, you can see that I've lined up the reference material to the grid just to make things a touch easier. I can also snap to the grid when placing the circles in the corners, and also you can see I'm not too bothered about matching the reference material exactly. I just want something that broadly looks like a cassette tape, as this will be quite a stylised illustration. So I decide to round off some corners. I also bake in the appearance of this command, as I will be modifying this shape later on in the process. So as you can see, I start creating the inner geometry, and I will be deducting this shape from the main outer geometry later on, but for now I just modify the shape using the corner tool. I chamfer 2 corners, I then bake this modification into the geometry, and then select all the nodes and round all the nodes again to get rid of any harsh corners. To create some more detail, I then convert a rectangular shape to curves, and then by enabling transform mode, I can move the bottom nodes and also mirror the transformation by holding down command as I make the transformation. I'll then control click this segment to delete it, and then round some corners off to make it look a bit fancy. Finally, I then centre this object by hitting the align centre button found in the toolbar. So I go ahead and create some more ellipses and rounded rectangles to represent the last pieces of geometry. I also decide to create the side detail and again utilise the corner tool. I've also snapped to the right side of this rectangle to the grid, so I can easily position a mirror duplicate on the other side, and I will create the duplicate by holding command as I click and drag on the selection. At this point, I select everything and lighten the stroke colour. I then select the main shape and assign a dark blue fill. I can now hide the reference as I don't need it and move the main shape to the back of the stack. I now want to adjust both tape reels at the same time, so I enable transform objects separately in the toolbar, and as you can see, both shapes scale independently rather than both shapes being scaled as one object. As you can see, I join the side elements to the main shape. I then start assigning some fill and stroke values to build up the look of the illustration. I now select the inner shape and deduct it from the main shape to create a kind of window. I then add more fill values and change the stack order until it looks correct. So now I create some more simple rectangles and assign fill values to create the main tricolour stripe of the image. I then decide to use the knife tool to make some cuts. I then select and delete the bits I don't want and tweak the shape until I'm happy with how things are looking. This stroke object needs pasting inside the main object. I then need to ungroup the 2 tape reel objects so I can change the stack order so it looks correct. I now need to duplicate the main object and remove the hole in the middle of it. I'll then move this new object to the back of the stack and assign a stroke value to it. At this point, I then create a rectangle that will be the main background colour. I'll move this rectangle to the back and then lock the layer as I don't need to interact with it in any way or select it by accident. At this point you can see things are now starting to come together nicely. So to create the little viewing window, or whatever it's called, I start with a rounded rectangle and assign a stroke with no fill. I then duplicate this object, add a fill and then send it to the back, and then cycle through steps forward until it's where I want it to be. At this point I create some rectangles that will eventually be pasted inside the object at the back. I should have pasted the first object inside the shape before I started duplicating it, but that's just how things panned out. Also, for full disclosure, this is actually the second time that I made this illustration. The first time took much longer to create, as I did make quite a few of the creative decisions and explorations that you don't see here. I've also sped this video up by 200%, and if you think that value needs tweaking, please let me know in the comments. Once again, I used the rounded rectangle tool to create the label. I accidentally created this inside the previous object we were working on, so I just need to adjust its position in the layers panel and then tweak the corners and center the object. I then add some text with caps lock engaged, but not in anger, my friends. So at this point the illustration is nearly complete. I just feel it needs a little extra something, so I add a few more elements in the corners. I also go in and remove a few nodes at the sides that I don't think we need, and after making some final selections I go in there with the corner tool and round things out. I also decide to select the rear tricolour object at the back and round a couple more corners. So that's the image complete. I hope you like it. So thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye.